Hello, my name is Harper. You're listening to the West Data podcast.
There's so much noise. There's just so much noise in the world, and it's really tricky to it's like saying no, knowing the things that you need to just shut off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the West Ada School District podcast. As always, I got to give love to Harper.
What a little cutie pie, my goodness.
She's a first grader at Galileo STEM, so thank you, Harper, for getting us into this episode, and thank you to amazing Bri Eggers.
Oh, wow. I'm always blown away. I'm always like, oh, that's the best guest we've had. And every conversation is just so fun and brings out these great gems to share with our families.
Well, I'm excited about this conversation. I think you'll like it too. One of the reasons we wanted to do this was to talk about the holidays and navigating the holidays as parents. We all know it can be a little bit tough, but to see Bri talk about the reasons why she left Channel 7 and career versus family, these are not easy issues.
They're not easy, and it's hard to make those choices, and sometimes it's good to hear other professionals who've made the same kind of choices. It's working out really well for her, so I'm excited to share this conversation with you.
It's a lot of fun. Here you go. Here's our conversation with Bri Eggers.
All right, well, we are here today with Bri Eggers. Bri is a meteorologist by training and a mom by choice, and we're going to have all kinds of great conversation today on how you balance all of that. Welcome, Bri.
Thank you for having me. This is fun to get out and do something different. I put myself together today.
Right. You got out of some Lululemon and put on some clothes.
Drinking hot coffee.
Mom
so
world.
happy.
It's the truth.
That's
it's
cool.
the truth.
Well, I think most people know your background, Bri, but can you kind of give everyone a break? I mean, obviously you were at Channel 7 for a long time, all over TV in the Treasure Valley, but can you kind of give everyone your background?
Work from the beginning to in chronological
Well, you're
order.
You're a hometown girl, right?
I am, yeah. So I am the daughter of a fourth generation peppermint farmer. So I grew up on a peppermint farm, and I know how to set siphon tubes, which is a really skill that I'm very proud of. But I went to school in CUNA from kindergarten all the way through graduation. So I was part of the 13-year club. You know, there were maybe 15 of us in the graduating class. Go cavemen. Yeah, still can't spell that correctly. So, that's a downfall of being out there. But boy, that area has sure changed.
Huge.
As our entire horizon and landscape really has.
Right.
Went to San Diego State for school just so that I could be close to In-N-Out Burger, and that is a true story. Studied abroad in a couple of different places.
I love it.
Yep. And I actually majored in theater, performance art. And I guess I figured that I could pretend to do anything at that point if I graduated with a theater degree. And then I came back and was actually a cheerleading coach and a substitute teacher for a few years once I graduated from college here in the Valley.
Right.
And goodness, then haphazardly ended up in television news media. And first day on the green screen, I said, it was the first time in my life that I was like, this is what I want to do.
Oh,
the
that's
light
cool.
bulb went on.
That's cool.
A little late in life,
Sure,
you know?
sure.
And whenever I do school visits, I always say that to kids. What do you want to be when you grow up? And if you haven't figured that out yet, I haven't either.
It's okay.
Amen.
It's okay.
I'm still searching. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I spent several years here in the Valley working in news media, and then I spent 4 years in Boston. Got married, and we moved to Boston a week after our wedding.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a week after your wedding.
Yeah, we were on our honeymoon as the truck was headed east.
Welcome to marriage.
Oh boy, I'll tell you what.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
it was a good experience. We had to lean on each other.
Yep.
We didn't have anyone else that we could run to if you ran into problems, So so it was a really good year for us, and the 4 years was awesome. It was like living retirement. And then we got pregnant with our first. And so we moved back home because
you do.
Yeah, because that makes sense. So, and then 5 years.
Children change things,
KTVB. It's true. Yeah, they really do, don't they?
Yeah, big time. In a good way, but it's work. Yeah.
Now, at what point did you get into meteorology? Did you start right there, or did you have to do some continuing education? What was that track like?
Well, I started working as they call them an MMJ, or a one-man band, so a multimedia journalist. You do it all. You do it all. And honestly, it was the heartbreaking stories that I just my heart couldn't handle. And so I was looking for another avenue in news that just wouldn't hurt so much.
Right.
And I have so much respect for those who can tell those important stories, but it wasn't for me. And so I did that. When that light bulb went on, I was looking for a way to bone up on science and math and physics. And I went back to school through Mississippi State, and I got my meteorology certificate. And then I eventually got my National Weathercasters Association seal, which I was really proud of.
Which is not easy. Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was really fun. What a shift from what I, my whole life had led up to that point. But then once I was studying weather, it all made sense, because my nickname growing up was Breezy, daughter of a farmer. How important is a forecast and knowing what our atmosphere is doing?
All of it.
Right.
Yeah.
All of it.
So,
well, and I just kind of wonder, so quick background on us. So I was in television for several years. Katie's done TV as well. To get to Boston, that's a big deal. A top 20 market, that kind of thing. I'd like to just get your impressions on, from a peppermint farm in Kuna to Boston. What was that like? Was it culture shock? What was that like?
Oh, big time. Yeah, definitely culture shock. However, we were immediately taken in there into our community.
Cool.
I think that we just got really lucky from where we lived, and we lived in the North End, or the Little Italy district. If you've ever been to Boston, you've probably had modern pastry, or you've been to had a cannoli on Hanover Street. And so where we lived, we were already kind of taken into this smaller community, or this subset of Boston, and so it was nice. It was a really good experience. I loved the rich history there. That was something that we dove into.
The Freedom Trail and all that.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, my favorite part about living in Boston was being so close to water.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't,
you've been in San
huge
Diego, so
change.
that was probably a different kind of water,
It
right?
was, yeah. So we had a joke where I worked. All my coworkers would say, "Oh, Bri's on another boat." I was always trying to find a boat I could be on in Boston.
Right. That sounds so fun. I love that.
It was a great experience.
That's really cool. Well, I just loved, to delve into the professionalism and now being a mom,
Right.
it's different. Yeah.
So you were really, we're a KTVB family, watching the news, watching the weather with you. You're really like a hometown sweetheart. I love how you delivered the weather and all the good things. And then you had to make a hard decision.
I had to make a hard decision. It actually started this time last year, and I remember that pinnacle moment where, to backtrack, I had Tristy Hendrick from KTSY had said to me at lunch one day, when God's trying to tell you a message, he tells you 3 times. The first time it's like, hey, I'm talking to you.
Right.
Second time it's like, I'm listening. And then the third time it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you.
I got it now.
Yeah.
And so that first message came about this time last year, and it kind of just continued to snowball from there. And it got to a point where I couldn't ignore that call anymore. And I always speak in analogies. What I really felt like after 15 years in this career, that I really thought I'd spend my entire career in and retire after 40, much like Mark Johnson did, and Rick Lance eventually will. But I feel like I was standing at the end of a cliff, right? And you're looking down, and how scary that is. And you don't even know, like, how deep is the water, and how cold is the water, and what's going to happen.
What's this look like?
But
all
then
of it.
looking back, there wasn't any room for me to head that way. And so eventually, and it was so hard. It was so hard, and it kind of broke me. I had to make that leap.
Sure.
And I did. And now I'm kind of like treading water, and it's nice, and I like it.
Sure.
I'm glad I made that decision, but I'm also looking around thinking, where's my boat?
Yeah, right.
Like, what's next?
Who burned that boat?
Yeah, what's next? Because I can't tread water forever. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay.
It could just be that season, right? Like
It is.
there are seasons. I'm a few years ahead of you in parenting and motherhood and career. And I think as women in our society, we're kind of trained to think, oh, if you step away from your career, there's no getting back in. But I stepped away 10 years ago, and I've gotten back in even better than before. Yeah. So there's time, and you need to listen, because your family is your number one priority, right? Like they are the most important, and it's okay to take that time to spend with them, and your career will be there.
Well, and the hardest job in the world. And I think most people recognize that. Right? They will, if you've done it or if you've even filled in,
witnessed, or even if you substitute taught, these things.
It's very true. And I feel really lucky to be able to enjoy that time too, because my kids being 5 and 3, they're still within my grasp. And I know you guys get this from the other side of this, where it feels so intensive sometimes. I also am just glad that I don't have to worry about them going off with a friend somewhere with other people that I don't know, or are they really where they say they're going to be? And so I'm holding on to it. Where I'm at right now.
Well, and not to belabor the point, but I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, but so same thing, when my kids were small, I ended up staying home and being the stay-at-home dad for a long time. And I, at the time, there were some hard days, but I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I think my question for you, like you touched on this briefly, like you studied abroad at Oxford, you did some really cool things. And then to be home and mom, it's a blessing. I'm not going to say it's a curse, but how hard is it? I guess is the question to be mom, to be at home, or to be. For me, I know it was pretty hard some days. What's it like? What's your experience like? I guess is the question.
Bittersweet, right? I think I'm learning so much about myself.
Yeah.
When I think about those meltdowns that the little one has often. God bless her. I named her after a cheese. She's Colby, like Brie cheese, right?
Oh, there you go.
But man, cheese makes that girl grumpy.
Yeah.
And so when she has those breakdown moments, and I think it's not fair for me to expect her to regulate herself and her emotions if I can't regulate myself and my emotions.
Right.
And so we're kind of learning together. We're learning together how this goes. But I also, back to the, it being the hardest job in the world. I saw something on social media at some point that you can, if you're a nanny, for example, and you're taking care of somebody else's kids, that can go on a resume. And that's an incredible job experience. And you can list all the things that you did while you were taking care of somebody else's kids. But you can't put being a mom on your resume to explain that gap in your timeline. And yet it's way more than a 40-hour-a-week job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is such a great perspective. I never thought of that. Yeah. Because you can. I mean, I nannied all through college and right after we were married. And those are tangible skills you can put down. But why can't we do that as moms?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, and it kind of, what's interesting to me too is it really kind of never ends. And in the sense that, so now my son is in college. And again, those years when they were 5 and 3, like I at the time, I don't know if I appreciated it enough. But now, it's like, man, I was lucky that I was able to work from home during those years and be stay-at-home dad. Anyway, I just know that we have parents out there in our community who are struggling with these things. Listen, I admit it's a first world problem. I'm lucky that I got to stay home and work from home and do all those things. But it's just cool to be able to have this conversation.
Well, something that stuck with me. I'll never ever forget it. It was another thing that I'd heard just somewhere. I couldn't even tell you who said it, but it was a dad who was with his kids, little kids, same ages as mine. I think 7 and under, and maybe there were 4 of them. So he was even busier. And he said that in those hard moments, what the perspective that he tries to have is he puts his mind thinking that he's in the future and he's time traveling into the past, right? To enjoy, because how many times have you said, I wish, we run into parents all the time, and they say, oh, I miss this stage, and it snaps me back right into it because you're never going to get these years back. And so, I really try to remind myself of that as thinking about, time traveling into when they're young and enjoying,
appreciating every moment.
Yeah.
Join us December 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. at West Ada's Parent Learning Community event.
Únase a nosotros el 11 de diciembre de 6 a 8 p.m. en el evento de la Comunidad de Aprendizaje para Padres de West Ada.
The theme of this PLC is Stronger Together, Thriving Through Winter. The focus is building a stronger family unit.
El tema será Juntos somos más fuertes, prosperando durante el invierno. El objetivo es construir una unidad familiar más fuerte.
There'll be various sessions highlighting fun and engaging activities to enjoy at home or at one of our Meridian public libraries during the frigid winter months.
Habrá varias sesiones que destacarán actividades divertidas y atractivas para disfrutar en casa o en una de las bibliotecas públicas de Meridian durante los gélidos meses de invierno.
This event is open to all parents and guardians. Don't miss out on this fun, free opportunity. For all the details, check out the link in the show notes.
Este evento está abierto a todos los padres y tutores. No te pierdas esta oportunidad divertida y gratuita. Para conocer todos los detalles, consulte el enlace en las notas del programa.
So we talked about when you had to make the hard decision of setting your career aside, maybe not leaving it forever, but setting it aside. You're standing at the cliff. When you're in that job, what were some of the things that helped you make that decision? Like, now is the time to be home with my girls. What are some tough aspects of having to go to work every day?
I did spend 5 years, I want to say, in the morning shift, which
Yeah.
I might entertain revisiting at this point in my life, because I do think that it is a perfect shift for a working mommy.
Oh.
If there is a perfect shift for a working
Well,
mommy.
we see Maggie do it, right? She has
Yeah.
5 kids. We see her early in the morning.
She seems to be thriving, but I don't know when that wonderful woman sleeps.
That's why I always think. I always
my
wonder
goodness.
that.
No,
Right.
she is an absolute role model for me. But we get up at 2 a.m. and you've got to put yourself together. It's so funny how we take for granted when we turn on the news and we see the morning people and they're all chipper and put together. And,
Oh, yeah.
Well, most of us are getting ready and getting put together when you're there delivering the news, right?
Yep.
Not thinking
Yep.
about you've done it a few hours before.
Right.
Exactly. But then readjusting of those hours on the weekends. And I think about people in swing shifts, nurses, doctors, first responders. I got some really good advice from Pat Calley, retired from the ACSO. And he told me that they couldn't really recognize holidays on the holidays, and what they needed to do was wear the matching jammies and celebrate Christmas morning with the stockings and the presents when it was convenient for their family to do so, but it
Right.
was still okay because they were still able to celebrate those traditions each and every
Right.
year, and it didn't
Yeah.
matter what day it was actually on.
Right.
So they made it work for them, and I always took that to heart, because
Right.
news never stops either.
No.
We're not first responders. I have so much
Not even
respect.
close, but
not
yeah,
even
but yeah,
not
right.
even close.
Right.
But it's 365. No shows are cut back, and so there's somebody that's got to work those holidays.
Yeah. Well, and so I was a sports reporter for years and years. And so, it's nights and weekends. And it was great before I had kids. But when kids came along, it's like, oh, how do you do this? And my wife was working at Channel 6. And that was part of the reason why she left as well, because it's trying to do those hours can be a little bit tough. But I guess in that context, we're coming up on the holidays. How in the world?
Yeah, I know.
And I think that's
How did
really
we get here?
I can't believe it. But that's one of the reasons I really wanted to have this conversation for our parents as well. Like, how do working parents navigate the holidays? How did you do that? And your things have shifted now, but how do we do that effectively? I think is the question I want to ask all of us.
The trick that I used last year, and I plan on using it again this year, is you just find some good friends who are willing to cook at their house. And you say, what can I bring? Right? And then you just something like that. Planning and time management. My husband and I'm forcing him to do this. Actually, fun fact, my married last name is Early. And we are never on time. And this is completely his fault. And so I'm working on this and adjusting our family to make sure that we can be better about time management. But it does take communication, because it takes both of us to sit down and make up the plan for the kids, because it's not just planning for the holidays, but you still have, school pickups and drop-offs and dance pickup and drop-offs and sporting events, and we're in championship season right
Oh my
now. And
gosh,
so
yes.
there's a lot of travel involved with that, and really going day by day and then making notes. And I keep a notebook. I don't diary, I don't journal, but I have to write down the tasks, or else I have 30 tabs open in my brain.
Right.
At any given
close those
point,
tabs? Yeah.
write it down.
Same thing. I have the notebook, and I'm old school. I have to write things down, because then it gets in my brain. I think about it, write it down, go through, check, like Santa, writing a list, checking it twice, delegating maybe.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think that my husband and my kids, it's their right to just show up. But sometimes I think everybody in my house wakes up and it's like this magical Christmas, and I'm like this psycho person running around trying to make it all happen, right?
Oh,
so
gosh.
Like
delegating.
the SNL episode
Totally.
where mom got, and I got a robe.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yay.
And I probably bought it for myself.
Right. I asked you to wrap it, maybe.
Yeah. Well, but balance is hard. I mean, not to belabor the point, but how do we balance all that stuff? I mean, taking notes.
Yeah.
Any other tips or tricks in terms of balancing?
Learning how to say no.
Oh, boundaries.
I'm working on that one. Learning how to say no is a really tough one for me, and because I do want to do it all and I want to show up for everyone, but it's tricky to know the things that you can say no to,
Right.
and the things that you can't say no to as well, right? So prioritizing, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I there was a time in my life where I could not say no. And then I heard, I forget the cliche, but you have to say no to the good in order to have time for the great. And that's a great little, something to put on a pillow or whatever. But there's truth. Is there truth in that? Do you guys see truth in that? I guess is the question.
Absolutely. Well, for us, I never wanted to be running from house to house to house, like on Christmas, right? I want to be home and soak in that like coziness of being home and Christmas morning. And so there were some years in our early marriage where we had to learn, and early having kids, to balance like, okay, this is what we're going to do. But after this time, we'd love to come over and do the other family things.
Right,
So having those hard conversations, you can have hard conversations with your family and be respectful. And, hopefully everyone's accepting of that, like, maybe we could do Christmas in the afternoon instead of first thing in the morning so that we can enjoy our Santa time and our stockings and all that stuff. Do you guys balance it? Because your family's here locally.
Yeah.
Your husband's is up north.
Yes, correct. But we just travel. We just, that's when we
Right.
book no, I'm just.
I tried. I wanted to go
Get out of
all-inclusive
town.
Mexico for Christmas, but it's like triple the price at
I would
Christmas
love
time.
that.
It is true. That's
Yeah.
a really good point because everybody has their kids out of school
Yeah.
at that point. You don't want to
Yep.
pull them out on the off holidays.
Yeah.
No, that's a tricky one. Let me add a layer to this though. We are into 6 season.
Yep.
And that's the other part
Yeah.
that is really tricky as well is knowing, how sick, and you don't want to get anybody else sick, and the kids are always sick.
Yeah,
And
because you have littles. When I swear, your kids are 5 and 3. That's like
Right.
the ages where
Constant.
they're bringing home
Petri
everything.
dishes.
They
Yeah.
are petri dishes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a lot to catch up on, too. We
Right.
we were in this bubble for how long? All that time that we don't talk about, and now we have all these bugs that we have to catch up on, and so that also makes it really tricky.
Yeah.
For the holiday season, I remember last year my little one was in her Christmas program, and I saw her hands. I mean, she was having a blast, and then I saw her hands go to her mouth, and I was like, "Well, here we go."
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of a 4-month journey.
Right. It's so true.
It
is so true.
Well, and it's just, it's interesting how you said earlier, having 5 and 3-year-old, it's so much fun. Now, as having a kid in college, it's like, well, he's dealing with his basketball team stuff. So when does he get to come home, and what does that look like for Christmas? And so it's just interesting how it changed. I love what you said earlier about the dad looking back, because it's like, oh man, I'm glad. But you got to appreciate the 5 and 3.
And it's hard to do it. People tell you when they're little, the days are long. And then the years are shorter. But now that I have a teenager, I'm like, oh, he's a sophomore. It's like 2 years. Do we just have 2 years left with him? Is he going to go away and be his own person after? And that's the natural progression. But now it feels like they're very short. It's a very short time frame. So you hear it when your kids are little, but you're in the thick of it, and it's hard to appreciate and know. So I think that's great advice, is looking back and trying to be in the moment.
Do you feel like you have more time now that you're not working outside the house right now? Do you feel like you have more time, or is it because I know that there are probably moms out there going, oh, "Shut up, Ken," because there's not more time. I mean, how do you navigate time? I guess, or do you have any other advice for navigating time for our parents out there?
No,
I like taking the list thing is huge.
I miss naps. We don't do naps. I feel like I left my job to be a stay-at-home mom just as my kids were like, we don't nap anymore. I was like, oh man, I was really looking forward to that. It's so tough. I live in my car. And I think, this is something I've been really, really hard on myself for, and I've been really conscious of, but I haven't adjusted it yet. And that's how much I have my phone on me, and I don't want my kids to think that that mommy's constantly on her phone, but I'm also doing a side hustle that I have a small business that I'm running. And so I am on my phone communicating a lot. And so I'm trying to be really conscious of how often they're seeing me doing that multitasking and just put it away.
That's good. That's so good.
It's a tough one though.
It is hard.
And it's interesting that you bring that up. Sorry to interrupt, Katie, but it's interesting that you bring, because I remember when I was working from home, when my kids were that age, like, okay, Dad's going, and my wife was home because she didn't go into the TV station until later in the day.
Right.
But I would go close the door in my office, and then they'd be like, "We want to talk to Daddy." It's like, no, I've got to be professional, Dad, for a few hours now. It's hard. I'm sure people understand it. How hard is that sometimes?
Another little tip that I feel like I try to think about a lot is that I saw, and probably another social media video, but a stay-at-home mom was saying, throughout the day, she does not expect more from herself than she would expect from a childcare professional. So don't force yourself to get the 85 mom things done at the same time as you're just taking care of your kids.
Right.
That can wait, and you can do it as a couple. You can do it as a family when you're all together. But at least for the daylight hours, if you'd be paying somebody to be there and watching your children, then think about paying yourself to be there and watching your children and let the laundry wait if you can, you know?
Yeah. That's hard.
That's the
so
balance
hard.
thing. That's a tough one.
Well, I know, the phone, I'm so grateful for you and for your daughters that you are cognizant of your phone time. I worked from home. I say stayed home. I worked from home. And my son, who's 9 now, I notice that he's very, he does not like when I'm on my phone, ever. When I grab my phone, he comes up to me. He's like, "What are you doing? Why are you on your phone?" I'm like, "Whoa, okay." Or like if we're watching a show, I'll sit with him to watch his kid's show. But if I grab my phone, he's like, "Watch my show." Watch, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what did I do when you were little? Did I make you feel, like my phone was more important or interesting than you?" So kudos to you for being cognizant of that.
Well, I told you I haven't adjusted it yet.
It's hard.
I'm just conscious of it.
Yeah.
Working
Know
on
better,
it.
do better, right?
Work in
You're trying.
progress.
The second annual West Ada Activities and Athletics fundraiser is underway. This year's prizes are legit, including a 2024 Chevy Equinox courtesy of Kendall Ford, valued at $40,000. Tickets are $75 each, and if you buy 3, you'll get an additional ticket for free. For all the details, visit westadafundraiser.com. The link is also available in the episode description.
Well, along with staying at home, you mentioned that you have kind of a side business, which usually we moms, dads, staying at home, we say a side business, but it really can take a lot of time. You want to share with us about that?
I have an extensive collection of Mickey ears.
Mickey ears,
Yes, I
huh?
do. I do, yeah. I am one of those elder millennials, I'll say, that puts me in whatever category, but I have that addiction to Disney. And so it was I honestly thought I would be involved in some sort of travel, maybe travel sales or business planning for travel or social media for travel when I was in college.
Right.
I interned for Disney College program. I also interned for the Student Travel Association. And so this is kind of bringing it back full circle, but I'm now a Disney dream designer.
Ooh,
and
that
that's
sounds
my
fun.
small business. It is a blast. It is so fun. And if you ask my 5-year-old, what does mommy do? She plans trips she plans trips to Disney. But then my 3-year-old will say, "Can we go to Disneyland today?"
Right.
And it doesn't really work like that.
Yeah.
But doing this new thing that is completely new to me, the work from home thing, I cannot tell you how much respect I have for any person who has worked from home, whether it's always been that way or it was just that way during, I was even broadcasting from home for KTVB
Absolutely.
during the COVID days.
Yeah.
And it is tricky. I mean, my kids can smell me. They know where
Right.
to find me.
Yep.
They know
Yes.
they always need a snack at the best or worst
Worst
time.
time.
And it does, sometimes I think my husband would even attest to this, that I'm a little hard on him. Like, you get to go to work today.
Yeah.
Right.
Lucky,
Yeah.
because it's not a horrible thing to be able to go to work, especially if you enjoy your job. Drink a hot cup of
100%.
coffee,
Right.
Yeah.
talk to some adults.
Eat lunch when you want. Go to the bathroom by yourself. I mean,
What a concept.
What is that like?
it's real. It's so real.
It's
I
so
just
nice.
walk and go whenever I want. Yep. But I know I worked from home for 4 years.
Right,
I know.
right.
And that was during COVID. So I'm like, you're working and you're trying to help the kids do school or keep them entertained or man, it's a lot. So as a Disney dream designer, do people just reach out to you and say like, hey, I want to take my family, tell us all the best things to do?
Yeah. So the best part is that I am like a travel advisor.
Yeah.
But I only get to focus on Disney, at least currently, because it's what I enjoy. But if a family's booking a Disney trip, it's like so complicated these days, right?
It is.
Am I going to Florida? Am I going to Anaheim? Am I going to Disneyland Paris or on a Disney cruise? And then what is Lightning Lane? What is Genie Plus? What
app do I have to have?
What does all of this mean?
How do I get on The Incredibles quickly? Yeah.
Disney gives the dream designers a cut because they know you don't pay for me, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing as if you booked your trip yourself. But Disney pays us or gives us a small cut because they know that you'll have a better trip if you have a fairy godmother in charge to make your trip practically perfect in every way. Speaking in Disneyese.
Julie Andrews, go for it. I'm down.
It's been really fun. Really fun.
I love that that's such a compliment to the other side of your brain that is so science and technology. I mean, what a well-rounded person you must be. You have your fun Disney
diagnosed obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's working for you. It's working for you.
Make it work. I'm down. Yeah.
Because that's something we focus on a lot. My kids are at a school of choice that has a STEM focus. And, I have 3 boys, but I know the value and importance of having women in the STEM field. There's, what is it, like 2.5 times more men are in STEM positions in Idaho than there are women. And there's no reason for that, right? Do you do, I think over the years I've seen you do some work or go visit classrooms. Do you want to touch on that for us?
So something I'm really, really proud of was the Science in the Classroom program that I put together for KTVB. I started doing the school visits when I was in Boston. I really enjoyed it. I love getting into the classroom. I love seeing how excited the kids get. I think that's probably where my theater performance comes in, a little bit of entertainment.
Have them in the room with you,
Make it exciting. And I put together a really cool science kit at KTVB, which I hope is still circulating the community. That was a really fun thing for me. I had a discussion just the other day at the Salvation Army Red Kettle Kickoff with a good friend of mine. I hadn't seen him in a long time. Used to babysit his girls. What are your girls doing now? And he says, well, my oldest is at Harvard getting her master's and her PhD at the same time in aerospace engineering.
My gosh.
This is a child from our community.
Wow.
Right? And then he joked, he said, and her slacker sister at Georgetown.
Slacker.
Yeah, working in math and business or something along those lines, but a male-dominated field. And I thought it caused me to pause for a really long time. I was thinking back to the fact that I still can't spell caveman correctly. And this is no knock on our education system. But truly growing up, I didn't know that I had all of these options.
Right.
Oh.
I didn't know what else was out there. I didn't know that I could plug in to STEM or I could plug into something I was interested in. In fact, something I've been really impressed with is all of the CTE programs.
Oh,
Yes.
it's huge.
It's incredible.
Huge.
And to be able to talk to a kid that says, well, I'm not really good at spelling or language arts or whatever the case is, but I'm really good at physics and they can apply that now.
Right.
They can already start to think about what they want to be when they grow up, which I don't know. I kind of thought I was going to get my MRS degree.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the time of life. Or
I thought the same thing. And that's, I mean, I have a business degree because I thought, that's where the cute boys will be who have great jobs, right? Like that's like, honestly, I thought that being full disclosure here.
Not a bad plan.
Right. And a business and marketing degree, that's served me well throughout my career. But it's so cool, especially having, Ken and I have teenagers who are in the high schools and graduated to see that they can explore a career and be excited and get them to school and have those opportunities.
Well, and I think what I'd like to ask about here too is like, I have a daughter that's a junior in high school, and one of the things that I want her to understand is like there's a gender pay gap. There's there was an article in Forbes I looked at. Last year, women earned 17% less than men on average. And I want her to understand that. But I also want my son to understand that, to go, hey, here's kind of how our world works. How do we make it better? How do you respond to that? Or what are your thoughts there?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I know it is. I know it's a tough question.
When I was in Boston, I was part of the SAG-AFTRA union. That was a requirement.
Right.
And being part of the union, they are very good about when you're signing a new contract, they help you to get that contract in motion,
Sure.
not just your
Sure.
agent, which a lot of the TV folks will work with an agent as well. But the union is good about full disclosure. You can ask about 3 salaries within the market.
Oh, interesting.
In a level and expertise like you're in, so I would have been able
So you can
to
get a
ask
ballpark.
about
Yeah,
So then
yeah.
you could ask the names, right? And they would put them in order of lowest salary to highest salary, but they wouldn't tell you who was earning what.
Okay.
Right.
But I thought that was at least it gives you a better idea of what your market worth is at that
Right.
point.
Right.
So I guess better disclosure, maybe some regulations about better disclosure of what this position pays,
Right.
not dependent on your gender.
Right. And I think society-wise, like something that we can actually do to affect change, to teach our young ladies when they're going into the workforce, men almost always negotiate before they accept an offer. And women, we're kind of just trained to be nice. And, I've had so many jobs where I'm like, oh, you want to hire me? Thank you so much. I'll work. Well, I don't care what the pay is, whatever you want, And then
Sure.
you have to learn to be like, it's okay to ask for something different because men would, And so just trying to balance that out and
It's okay to be a squeaky wheel sometimes.
sometimes. And you don't have to be annoying. You don't have to be brash or off-putting.
Right.
But
all of that.
fair's fair.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about earlier too. You were talking about your friend at Harvard. I do a series of stories here, West Ada Ready, and we had a student from Renaissance High School next door who is now at Harvard, and just to see, and she's going into STEM, and I'm like, man, you go. This is so cool because we need more dialed-in women in these fields.
Mm-hmm.
Have you, are you familiar with SheTech or Women Innovators?
I'm not.
Okay, so I just learned about this yesterday. They are a local organization, the Women Innovators, but they have a SheTech conference that kind of like the mothership conference is in Utah. But we have it here. It's at College of Idaho, I think in January. And they'll bus female, high school students to this opportunity, and they can meet others in that field in all different kinds of STEM and STEAM, arts too, just to expose them, to let them know like these opportunities are available, and here's how you can get here, and here are some role models who can support you and mentor you. And I think it's incredible that we have opportunities like that.
That's awesome.
So it might be something I need to plug you into.
Yeah, please.
You'd be great with that.
I would love that.
Okay, well, I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to totally shift gears here. So sorry, that's a little brain shift here, but. So again, my wife anchored over at Channel 6, and she would come home and tell me sometimes some of the emails that she would get about her appearance or about these different things. One of the things as I was researching our conversation, I'm like, oh my gosh, Bri did some really cool stuff on social media and kindness and those kind of things. I think our West Ada parents, kids, social media and kindness, we're all doing this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Why were you so adamant at times about social media and kindness in that realm when you were an on-air personality?
This is really tough because my mind is really changing about how I dealt with it at that time as of recently.
Sure.
Because look, social media it's a blessing and a curse, right?
Oh, sure.
There's some good things there. And there's certainly a whole lot of bad things there, and obviously we need to, as parents, keep a really close eye on it because there are way too many rabbit holes for our kids to fall down. The way that we're communicating now is so quick and readily available.
Right.
I would like to do a focus study at some point. If there's anybody who's really good with psychology out there, I would love to know what the familiarity is, the familiarity factor. So you're turning on Maggie O'Mara in the morning, right? And she's talking and you're getting breakfast ready. You're wearing your bathrobe. You haven't had time to get yourself together yet. But Maggie's in your home while you're very vulnerable, right? In your kitchen. And so you think you're really good friends with Maggie.
Right.
And you can say to her, I didn't really like that dress that you wore the other day, or what, and there's that new program too, on KTVB 208. Which is supposed to be a conversation, that is the format of it. And so there's now a text line. So people aren't just emailing. They aren't just writing handwritten letters. They still do that.
Or social media messaging. But they're texting. And they're texting in the moment as they're watching live programming. And they're letting people know what their thoughts are right in and of that moment. And we're encouraging
immediate
that.
feedback. Yes.
Immediate feedback.
Yes.
And I remember I had a conversation with Brian Holmes, who anchors that show and produces that show. And he said, post COVID, unfortunately, a lot of people are just watching to hate watch. They're looking for something to rally them up, to get them kind of fired up, and then they want to share their opinion, and they need you to agree with them, and so there's a lot more of that, those loud, angry voices that are happening, and they also have more access to you, and they think it's okay either because they're behind a computer screen or a phone screen, or because you've been in their home and you've seen them.
I know you.
I'm using air quotes. I guess I should explain that, but you've seen them in your. They've seen you in your bathrobe, right?
Right.
But what we're doing, I never see a face other than the people that I'm.
Right.
That I'm in the studio with.
Right.
Here's where my mind has shifted on that. I always thought that it was a good practice to say, I'm going to call you out on it. You cannot behave like that. That is an inappropriate way to behave. Just like my mom always said, if you don't have something nice to say, keep it to yourself, right?
100%.
Or I would throw them to the wolves, using air quotes again, so a retweet on what is now known as X would let all of the positive followers take on that negative follower and let them handle it.
You go get them.
Yeah, let your supporters handle those negative naysayers. Now my opinion all of this is just let the volume turn down on themselves. Like just let them do their thing. Because I think a lot of times when people will say something that is really harsh and really horrible, they're just looking to be heard. They just need to yell. And they are going to say the most horrible things to get your attention. And when you give them that focus, it's exactly what they asked for.
Right.
I truly wish that I had the courage and the heart to just turn it off and not bring attention to it. But that was something that I couldn't do, and that was another thing that led me to the edge of the. It was a huge part of what led me to the edge of the cliff.
Totally get it.
And I wasn't dealing with it in the right way, and it was affecting my mental health.
Yeah, it's hard not to. I mean, that
shut it off.
You look at our teenagers. Like, why do you think so many of our teenagers have such poor mental health?
Yeah,
because they don't have the wisdom, the life wisdom that we all have to know to turn it down. They may be taking it to heart and the mean things people are saying. Because I would bet that some of the mean comments that you got online or wherever from viewers probably never happened to your face.
Oh, no.
Right? Like people wouldn't come up to you in the grocery store and say such terrible things.
Well, and that was one of the hard parts about working from home during COVID is being in this shelter, right? And not running into those super kind people in our community at the events, at the grocery store, the ones who were the really nice voices
that fill your cup.
Yes. Yeah. And I missed out on that.
And they're out
3.
there.
Oh, of course they are.
Yeah.
And they're way more plentiful. They are. But most of those people are not going to take the time, or maybe they don't even have the time because they've got other things going on.
Because they're working hard, getting their kids where they need to be, and all that.
Exactly. To email you and say, you really looked great today.
Yeah, right.
By the way, Katie, you look amazing today.
Nobody ever tells me that. Come on, what the heck? Well, I think what's interesting too, though, is so now that my kids are older, they just recently got me on Snapchat, or as I lovingly call it, the Snappy.
That still exists.
Oh, it exists. But
they're all about snapping.
And for teenagers, college, but it's a great way for me just to connect with them very briefly. So there, to your point, there are great aspects of social media, but all the things you just discussed, how will that affect how you regulate your daughter's use of social media? Or have you even thought about that?
Yeah.
Oh my
While.
goodness, no, it terrifies me. That's one of those things that I'm putting in a lockbox and putting in a drawer, at least for now. I want to avoid it as long as I possibly can.
I hope in the next 10 years it would be like, within 10 years will be the appropriate time for your daughters to do that if they wanted to, if you were okay with it. I think the pendulum will swing back. I'm an eternal optimist. I think that enough parents see the dangers and the pitfalls and what's happening to our kids. I'm hopeful that it settles down and it's not as vicious as it is currently.
There's so much noise. There's just so much noise in the world. And it's really tricky to it's like saying no, knowing the things that you need to just shut off so that you don't.
Well, and shameless plug for West Ada, but it is the West Ada podcast. What I love about education is that we can have these conversations. And when I see our teachers and when I see our CTE instructors, learning, my point is, I think learning helps you know how to say no. It also helps you know how to hopefully be kind. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean you don't call out when you see something that's wrong. You call it out. But anyway, I love education, and I love to get to work with amazing teachers like we've got.
It just gives you more tools, right? Education gives you tools to 100%. Handle life and deal with things. That's the point of it.
100%.
Right? Okay. I want to know. So earlier you mentioned you feel a little itchy, like we all do, right? We stay home, we enjoy it. You're pouring into your family, and that's absolutely where you should be.
Which is huge.
You have a lot of life and career left in you. So do you think, as Ken would say, he'd make a sports reference, are you going to pull a Tom Brady and come out of retirement anytime soon? Or do you think it will look different, how that might look?
I don't know. I have this conversation with my husband on a daily basis, daily basis. And I'm going to be totally upfront with you right now. I am not cut out to have the hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
I am not.
No one is.
I am not
no
cut
one
out
is.
for it.
Yeah.
And I do think I need those outlets, and I need to be able to get out of the house, and I need to, I can't continue just to tread water right now while my girls need me every, waking and sleeping moment of the day.
Right.
I want to do it, but I do know that I will be doing something else. I just don't know what that is right now. I'm currently in the Leadership Idaho Agriculture Program, Class 44. Oh. My dad is a graduate of Class 12 back in the 90s.
Who facilitates that?
So, it's just a bunch of people who are interested in ag, who get together and learn more about Idaho ag. We just spent the week in Moscow, and learn how to advocate for ag. So, you may be very ingrained in your dairy business that's out in Kuna or the Melba area, but you're not reaching out with some cattle owners and some sugar beet farmers, realizing that you guys could team up and head to the legislature and make things move and make things happen. Right. So I think it's instilling confidence, it's instilling good public speaking skills.
All of it.
And even just getting together with a group of people who have a passion for the same thing is kind of igniting me. Right. So
that's cool.
Having that, it's 1 week every month through the winter time, and it's been a really interesting experience. I'm trying to tap into my ag roots.
Yeah.
And see if there's something there. So that might be a boat that's nearby me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love your boat analogy. That's great.
That's awesome.
I can't wait to see where you sail.
Thank you.
Well, and none of us are experts, you guys. No. It's just interesting how it never ends. You got 5 and 3. I've got, college and high school. I was just with my parents last week in Missouri, and they're 86 years old. And I can tell they still are very concerned about me, being a parent. Hardest job in the world. It never ends.
Right.
Which is both beautiful and sometimes a little daunting, but I'm with you. I'm an optimist. It's mostly beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And you'd say to me the same thing that every parent we run into says, it never gets easier. The problems just change.
Right.
It just shifts. It's just a different season. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Different season. My son, are you at the right college? Are you doing the right things? It never ends, but it's beautiful. It's good. Yeah. Well, I always ask, is there anything, thank you so much for this conversation. Yeah. We've covered a lot. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should be talking about?
Oh, goodness.
I know it's very broad.
Yeah. I'm sure we could sit here for another hour or two.
Right. I could talk to you all day.
Talk about it all. I have so many questions for you. Can we flip the script at some point? You'll invite me back and we can flip the script.
We could totally do
sounds
that.
good.
Yeah.
Bri, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for getting dressed up and getting a hot coffee and coming and spending your morning with us.
Thank you for letting me drink hot coffee.
You got it.
Yeah. I might even use your
You can
bathroom,
even use
by,
the bathroom
myself.
by yourself.
Great having you. Thanks for being here, Bri.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you again to Bri Eggers. What a great conversation with her.
Absolutely.
That was a lot of fun. So we're on not a break, but we won't be back until January 9th. So
Christmas
hopefully
is
everyone
upon
has
us.
a great holiday season, all that stuff. But thank you for being here. And as always, you can listen wherever you listen to your podcast. Please subscribe to us. And if you listen on iTunes, give us a review. And we would love for you to subscribe to us on YouTube as well. And one of the things, too, I really wanted to say this. I loved our conversation. We got into briefly with Bri about social media.
Yeah.
You can go to westada.org/podcast and look at our old episodes. If you want more information there, we have an amazing expert. Detective Shannon Garza is the SRO over at Lake Hazel Middle School. And so please, if you want some real meat behind that conversation, go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah,
because
just kind of tying in that social media. We have an expert, and then we have a mom
Just a
perspective,
mom,
and
yeah.
also
Yeah.
someone who is in the public eye perspective on social media. So it's a great tie-in.
So check back on that if you have some time over the holidays to check out that old episode. I think you'll, as a parent, you'll really enjoy that as well. So check it out. And again, as always, we want to hear from you. Communicate at westada.org is our email, and where you can find us and have a conversation with us there about what you'd like to see and hear next.
Yeah, and when we come back on January 9th, oh my goodness, 2024, how is that even a thing? I can't.
My brain is not there yet.
I'm not
but
even
yeah.
quite ready for the holidays, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
On our next episode, we will have TJ Erickson. He's the director of bands at
Right.
Eagle High, which is a very well-decorated, huge band, and they've won a lot of state awards and
Right.
championships and that kind of thing. And then Camilla Boylan, she's another. They're both rock star educators in our district. Camilla is a theater teacher at Mountain View. Last school year, she just happened to win the West Ada Teacher of the Year, along with the Velma V. Morrison Performing Arts Educator of the Year. I mean, a great year for Camilla. And so we'll have a great conversation with them just about activities and different things going on in school outside of athletics, right?
For sure. And I'm excited about this conversation to focus on the arts and the amazing things that are happening in the arts. And these two instructors, they know a thing or two about asking for excellence from their students. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So it should be fun. Well, thanks again to Bri Eggers, and thank you for being here. And until next time.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Yeah.